Welcome back to my video. I hope you enjoy today's story. It's about a moment in life where the decisions we make can lead us down paths from which there is no return. So be sure to subscribe to the channel. Let's dive into Alex and Annie's story. They live on a quiet street in the suburbs of Portland, Oregon. Annie started to change. She wasn't as cheerful or as energetic as she used to be. She also became less interested in Alex and her family life. She started going out for walks and attending parties with colleagues. She often came home late without giving a convincing reason. In the evenings, she left home with the promise of coming home early, but then returning late at night. Alex was worried and suspicious. He noticed small changes in the way Annie behaved. She no longer shared everything like before. Instead, she always kept her distance, as if she was hiding something. Tonight, Friday night, when Alex just got home, he saw Annie getting ready. She was standing in front of the makeup mirror, choosing her most beautiful dress, preparing for an evening that Alex had not been informed of in advance. He felt anxious as she became quieter and more reserved in the past few days. "Are you going?" Alex asked, his voice betraying his suspicion. He turned to look at her, smiling faintly. "I'm just going to a party with my colleagues like every other time." Her voice tried to sound natural, but Alex could tell something was wrong. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Tell me before," Alex said again, looking at Annie's hurried movements. Edie was a bit confused at first but quickly replied, "It was just a last-minute thing. They invited me and I thought it wasn't necessary to bother you." Alex was silent for a moment, thinking back to previous times. He came home late without saying why. He looked at her, trying to stay calm. "You've been coming home late lately. I'm worried. Is there something you haven't told me?" She hesitated for a moment, but then she quickly turned back to the mirror, fixing her hair. "It's nothing. It's just work. Don't worry too much." Alex wasn't reassured by her words. He looked at Annie, who was quickly fixing her hair, and grabbed her bag, slinging it over her shoulder. He felt frustrated and doubting, and he couldn't take it any longer. He took a step forward, his voice firm and determined. "I won't let you go." Annie stopped and turned to him, her eyes surprised and slightly confused. "What are you talking about, Alex? I've promised to attend the party with my colleagues." "I don't care what you promised, but you've been going too many times lately without a reason. I can't stand this kind of doubt and worrying anymore, Alex," he said, his voice slow but determined. Eddie bit her lip, trying to stay calm, but the annoyance was evident on her face. "It's just a party. You're overreacting. I don't understand why you're reacting like that." He couldn't just watch her leave the house every night without a clear answer. "I don't want us to continue like this." "This is Annie," Alex replied, his voice warm but filled with pain. "I won't let you go tonight." Alex repeated, his voice more decisive. He stood there for a moment, her eyes sparkling in thought, but finally she sighed and said, "You won't let me go, but I'll still go with that." Annie turned and walked quickly out the door. Looking back at Alex at that moment, he felt frozen in place, unable to say a word. He could only watch Annie's figure gradually disappear from sight, and a feeling of loss and helplessness filled his heart. Alex couldn't stop thinking. His heart was filled with doubt. He picked up the phone and called Luca, a close friend and colleague of Annie's. After a few rings, Luca picked up. "Hello Alex, what's up?" he asked cheerfully. "What's your company celebrating tonight?" Alex asked, trying to keep his voice calm. "No party tonight," Luca replied immediately, without hesitation. "Thanks," Alex said, hanging up. Luca's words seemed to confirm once more that he wasn't telling the truth that night. Alex couldn't sleep. He tossed and turned, trying to figure out why he couldn't help but think. Then Alex fell asleep, thinking about his laptop. He quickly grabbed it and opened it, logged into Annie's Facebook account, and clicked on. Alex saw that Annie had sent a series of loving messages and pictures to another man. They were very intimate and went beyond what he'd expected from a normal relationship. He kept scrolling and suddenly his eyes were fixed on the screen. There were selfies with the other man, some with them both naked and smiling. Alex couldn't believe what he was seeing. In the pictures, the other man was lying next to Annie, laughing and sharing moments that should have been with Alex. It wasn't just a physical betrayal, but also an emotional one. Alex was lost for words. He felt betrayed and hurt. Everything he had believed in was now shattered. He sat silently, his mind racing with thoughts that made no sense. The images of Annie with another man were still vivid in his mind, making it impossible for him to stop thinking about the betrayal. He felt he could no longer continue with this life. He couldn't pretend that nothing had happened. He couldn't continue living in a marriage filled with deceit and betrayal. Every lie he told, every time she came home late. It was clear this marriage was over. Alex knew the divorce was on the cards, and he was ready for it. He got up and looked around the room. He'd made up his mind. He'd meet with a lawyer tomorrow to start divorce proceedings. Tonight would be the last night he lived in this deadlock. The next morning, when Alex opened his eyes, he felt the weight of the night before was still on his mind. The faint light from the window shone into the room, and he turned to see her still sleeping beside him. She seemed like she was still in a daze, but for Alex, everything had changed forever. He didn't want to face anything right now, and he didn't want to talk to her. The pictures he had seen the night before were enough. The messages he'd found out about last night made it clear, he didn't need any more explanations or justifications from her. His decision was made. They were getting a divorce, and today would be the first step in starting the process. Alex got up from the bed without waking her. He went into his office, opened his laptop and began to gather the evidence he'd found. This included every sweet text message and love message between her and the other man, as well as every nude selfie and even pictures of them cuddling together. He saved them all and transferred them to a USB drive, ready to present to his lawyer. Once he'd gathered all the evidence, Alex got ready to leave the house carefully, so he wouldn't make any noise or attract Annie's attention. He went outside, gently closing the door behind him, and started driving to the lawyer's office. When he arrived, Alex walked in with a heavy heart. He gave all the evidence he sent all the text messages and showed his lawyer the embarrassing photos of Annie to his lawyer. Everything was so clear, and he knew that this was the only way to end this marriage. Alex's lawyer glanced at the evidence and nodded. "We will proceed as quickly as possible," he said. "With this clear evidence, the divorce process will not be." Alex nodded, getting ready for the next steps. When he got back from the lawyer's office, Alex tried to stay calm, as if nothing had happened. Annie didn't know that Alex had met with the lawyer and prepared for the divorce. She was still carefree, continuing with her plans as usual. When the evening came, Annie got ready to go out again, putting on makeup and choosing clothes like every time before. But this time, Alex didn't stop her. He just watched silently, keeping a distance, no longer asking questions or trying to stop her, like last time. Alex sat back in the living room, listening to the sound of the. As he walked out of the office, he knew that his life would not be easy in the near future. Everything was about to end, and he was preparing for a new beginning after 18 days of waiting. Alex finally received the notice from the court about the divorce settlement. He had completed all the procedures that evening when he returned home. Alex sat quietly in the living room, his eyes cold but calm, when Edney walked in. Alex stood up, picked up the divorce papers on the table and walked towards her. "I'm back," Alex said, his voice emotionless. Then he handed the divorce papers to Andy. "We'll officially be divorced tomorrow," he said. Divorce. Edie stopped. Her face changed from happy to bewildered. She looked at the papers in her hand, not understanding what was going on. "Alex, what is this? Why did you give me the divorce papers?" "Pictures, I saw it all. You cheated on me with another man. You betrayed me. I can't live like this anymore. It's over." Eddie began to tremble. Her voice choked. "Alex, it's not like you think. It was more than just a mistake." "I can explain," but Alex interrupted. "You had a chance to explain, but it's too late now. We're out of luck. You betrayed me and I can't forgive you for that. Eddie looked at Alex. Her eyes were filled with tears and she was unable to believe what was happening. "We can fix this," he said, but Alex just shook his head. "Things have gone too far. There is nothing left to fix." She sank into her chair and watched Alex disappear behind the door. She couldn't believe things had gone this far. Tears began to well up and roll down her cheeks. She knew she was wrong and that she had hurt Alex, but now it was all too late. The next morning, Alex and Annie walked into the courthouse, both of them feeling the weight of the situation. She still couldn't believe that today was the day her marriage was ending. The thought that things would last forever ended. "Alex, please don't do this. I know I was wrong, but I really regret it. I will change. Please give me another chance." In his heart, he knew that he couldn't go back to the way they were. He couldn't live with the lie and betrayal. Everything between them was over. Alex's words were the final straw, cutting off all of Annie's hope. The court was silent, only the sound of the judge signing the divorce papers remained. Annie bowed her head, tears falling on the desk. It was officially over. Alex and Annie were divorced. When the judge announced that all at once the procedures were complete, Annie bowed her head and quietly walked out of the courtroom, her heart heavy with regret and sorrow. She knew she had lost the man she once loved and what they had built together over the years, and now she had to leave forever. Alex kept his house. When he got back to his familiar house, he sat down on the chair. It was really over. Alex had a new life and other opportunities waiting ahead.